Afternoon, brothers and sisters. Come you all this pleasant Sunday on my end, and wishing all is well to each and every last one of y'all lives, as long as you live in according to righteousness, of course. So, but today I want to discuss about the first atheist in the Bible. Now, Revelation came to me, and I was like, wow, I'm always excited when revelations come. And of course, I'm quick to share wherever and with whomever I can because, what is knowledge without sharing? So definitely want to share that with y'all. But before I begin, um, man, I want to say check out God's Not Dead 2. I got the first DVD. Actually, I didn't know the original one was out in theaters, until one day I just happened to be at a local Walmart and I seen the DVD and I'm like, huh, God's Not Dead. What's this about? So I just picked it up, watched it, and I am glad that I bought that DVD because I have watched it like at least close to 10 times. I just enjoyed the realistic arguments that take place within the movie. Very, very realistic and truthful arguments. This what I call it is scripted reality because that's exactly what it is. It's scripted reality. It's even though it's scripted, it's also real. So, but seeing part two, a lot of the arguments did take place in that movie. Um, I had something to do with, but yeah, I did. But behind the scenes, anyways, and it was just very enjoyable. It just showed the reality of one trying to, express their faith, express their belief, and defend it, as well. So, how it can be difficult to express it, and also it can be extremely difficult to defend it. So, God's Not Dead too for the believers. Check it out. If you hadn't already seen it, go see it. You'll enjoy it because what you'll love the most is the courtroom battles that take place and the arguments. That's what I really loved. It's, the guy who's pretty much on the side of the devil in a sense, and the guy who's neutral, but he just want to win, that's defending Melissa Joan Hart. And just the arguments. And I'm like, man, if I was in that courtroom, I'd be lighting into that lawyer because I love it when it's challenging because that's when people really have your attention the most is when it's challenging. They looking like, okay, how is he going to answer that? What answer is he going to have or she, is going to have for this question, So, and when it's extremely challenging, that's when you really at the conversion point of winning these people over and not winning them over as far as in a deceitful way, but winning them over in the truthful way where you bringing them over from darkness to light. So that's what I mean by winning them over. So God's Not Dead too. Definitely check it out. So yeah, why is it in theaters? Because I'm sure probably another week, they probably put it out the theaters and get ready to bring it on DVD because you got so many different projects coming out at one time. It's amazing how movies, just coming out so quickly, and just so abundantly. So that's why you see a lot of movies so quick to go to DVD. Because in the past, a movie will be playing for almost a month. But now it's about 2 weeks at the most, and they put it down so they can make available slots in theaters for another new movie that's trying to come out. So just amazing how quick they come and go now compared to the past. But the first atheist in the Bible. Just getting right to it. The Apostle Paul, if you look at it in perspective, was the first atheist, committed atheist in the Bible. And he was also a Pharisee. And by him being a Pharisee, that makes him a lawyer. So Pharisees were lawyers and also atheists. So how the revelation came is because I thought about the character in God's Not Dead too. The lawyer that defended Melissa Joan Hart character, Grace, and how he was neutral. He was a non-believer. He just was a simple lawyer. He was all about his profession, but he wasn't about her faith. So I was just reflecting and the thought came, I'm like, wait a minute, the Apostle Paul was an atheist, and there was another scene where a guy was a committed atheist and he converted over through evidence, you know, from discovering the existence of Christ and the existence of God because he thoroughly searched and researched and he came in contact with all his evidence and it caused him to convert over. So, and those are the people who make the best, I wouldn't necessarily say the best, but some of the greatest outreach ministers because they was there at one point as a non-believer. That's what God looks at. He like to use people who are serious doubters. They're extreme doubters. They're extreme non-believers. So when he wins them over, he know they're really gonna pour their heart out into it, and they are gonna run into a reflection of them old selves. They're gonna come in contact with a lot of people who used to think the way they thought. So they know exactly how they thinking. They know exactly, how they're gonna respond because they responded that way at one point in time in their life when they was on that side. So with the Apostle Paul, because he was a committed atheist, meaning he was a non-believer of a higher power. He was more for the tangible. Matter of fact, a lot of lawyers are atheists. So their beliefs won't get mixed in the cases. Because if a lawyer, I'm not saying that there are no lawyers that are believers, but there are more non-believers that's lawyers than believers. Why? Because some cases may come up where it may pay well, but this person is actually guilty of what their crime, what they're trying to defend against. They're actually guilty. So with that being the case, it's kind of difficult to try to defend a person who's actually guilty. And you are practicing moral ethics. So by being a believer and practicing moral ethics, trying to defend someone who's guilty, it's going to be a struggle because one may start to wrestle with themselves when going before the jury, because the wrestle, it'll be a tug of war within, because already going against the plaintiff or going against the opposing party in the courtroom, but also is going against God's will. So by one being a believer and trying to be a lawyer is quite difficult because it's like, well, deep down within, this person is guilty and you have to come up with a convincing, persuasive argument that they're not guilty in order to pretty much profit. The lawyer's going to profit anyways because they're already getting paid, in advance and sometimes on the back end after the case is over. They automatically, attorney's fees, they automatically collect anyways. But in order to further their career, the more they win cases, and by winning tough cases, that furthers their career. So therefore, more people are going to extend their hand out to them and want their service, want their business. So by being a believer, and like I said, a person is guilty, it's a struggle. It's difficult. Versus a lawyer being an atheist, a non-believer, and they defend somebody. They like, hey, I ain't worried about morals or ethics or whatnot because hey, it's by any means necessary in this courtroom. By any means necessary in order to win this case. So it doesn't bother them as much as it will bother a believer. So therefore, by Paul being a committed lawyer, because that's what a Pharisee was all about, the law, but the Mosaic law. So by them, he being a dedicated Pharisee and a dedicated atheist, meaning he didn't believe, he thought that the preaching and promoting of an intangible God, was foolishness. And he thought he had a zeal for his belief. He was zealous, a very zealous person. And he had it in his heart that this is the right thing to do. So that's why he was so dedicated and committed to it, because he thought it was right. And Christ saw that in Paul. He saw that, he just misguided. It's not that he a bad person, he a misguided person, and his heart is steered in the wrong direction. In other words, Satan is leading him in his direction, thinking that he's doing the right thing, but he really not. And that's a whole lot of people case, where the devil is leading them down the wrong path, but within they feel like, this is the right thing and it's the wrong because they're deceived. So by Paul being a committed atheist and a committed lawyer, Pharisee, you know, Christ liked that commitment and dedication. He liked that, and he knew that he could be a chosen vessel. So if only I can use that same zeal, that same commitment and dedication of him being an apostle or being an evangelist, if only I can use that. So that's where the road of Damascus would led to the conversion point where Paul encountered things that he went against. He went against it because he didn't think such things was true. So when he encountered what he went against and spoke against, it was like, wow, I don't know what's real anymore, because I was taught and trained that by me believing or the belief in a God that we cannot see, touch, or hear or talk to, even though we can, but from a non-believer's perspective, they believe no, it's no such thing. So therefore, he thinking that to banish all Christians, to quit promoting this wickedness, this paganism. That's how Paul looked at it. So God used him as a chosen vessel because he loved that commitment and zeal. So Paul was the original atheist. So for atheists who say, oh, this is that. I mean, if you take the Apostle Paul, he was a lawyer and he was an atheist. And he became one of the most committed, dedicated Christians, than the rest of the apostles or the disciples, because he had a fire, a zeal about him. This reminds me of Malcolm X, how he had a fire, a zeal, and he was trying so hard to promote the hatred of whites. But he was misguided by the false prophet Elijah Muhammad. He was misguided. And William D. Farad, who was also being false. And no offense to those who believe in this, but it's evidence and facts. The same way how Muslims attack Christianity. Christ was false in it. It's archaeological evidence. It's historical evidence. It's meteorologists, evidence when it comes to astronomical evidence, that Christ exists. It's so many different angles where Christ exists and he did perform those miracles. It's so many different angles where the biblical historical events took place, where it's archaeological finds of the biblical events. I'm trying to throw it out here out so fast, getting tangled up. But it's archaeological finds of all these biblical events. I mean, you can look up where they found Noah's Ark in Turkey, of the Red Sea, how they found remnants of chariots where the Egyptians crossed and chased out the Hebrew Israelites, and how it's remnants of the chariots still on the water, where they found it, ancient artifacts. So, and notice they're called facts at the end, artifacts, facts. So all this proof and evidence. So when it comes to, Jesus ain't real, da da da. Okay, that's the whole point of the movie. God's Not Dead 1 and 2, and other movies, where especially God's Not Dead in specific, where those arguments are taking place, proven in those arguments in a movie that the existence of God. So the first committed atheist, Paul. Paul the Apostle was a non-believer because he did not believe in the intangible. And most lawyers like tangible. They like things that they can grasp hold to, and that's logical, within reason, meaning within seeing as well. So if it's not tangible, they're not too quick to believe. So a lot of lawyers being atheists, that's the way they're programmed. I believe in the tangible. When you go in that courtroom, you can't speak on things you can't see. They want things you can see. They want things within reach, not things outside of reach. So you go in a courtroom speaking God, that's outside of reach. In a courtroom within reach, where everybody doesn't believe in God. And what do you have that's within reach? Meaning, what evidence, tangible evidence and proof can you display before the court, instead of your belief. So that's where the struggle takes place. Like you trying to present your belief and they want tangible evidence and proof. So that's what Paul's issue was. He was going against the intangible until he encountered the intangible. And when Christ came to him and he had a revelation, and I think Barnabas or one of the Silas, one of them came, and he had a premonition. I mean, he was starting to come in contact with the intangible. And by him becoming in contact with the intangible, it led to him being a believer. So the first atheist, once again, first atheist, first lawyer, Paul. And he became one of the greatest disciples, or most, I wouldn't necessarily say the greatest, I'll say one of the most dedicated disciples by first being an atheist. Because if anybody knew the type of mindset that was difficult to persuade, Paul knew, because he had that difficult mindset. He had it. So that's why he knew exactly how to battle, defend, and prove to those who had a mindset like his, because he originally had it first, or he had it first before he came in contact with such people being on the opposing end, meaning him being a believer now. So, but wanted to share that about the first atheist being Paul. Like I said, God's not dead too. So just a quick revelation. So the atheists think about it like, wow, I didn't think that way. Yeah. He was a Pharisee. He was a non-believer. And yeah, he was an atheist. He didn't believe in a higher power. He believed in law, what was tangible. He didn't believe in beliefs, period. He thought beliefs was, just being a mystic. You just somebody throwing something up in the air. You just a mystic. But by being a lawyer, he thought that was something more reasonable. Like these things are tangible. This is proof. This is evidence. This is in effect right now. But when it comes to going outside of laws and going more spiritual, then or supernatural instead of natural, then that's when it became an issue, because lawyers and atheists are for natural, more a scientific mind. Things that's tangible. I can get a hold of. I can show you this instead of what's intangible. So it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. Last but not least, Philip Sons, you want me to do a training video? Definitely been considering it. And just stay tuned and I'm going to get around to it. Just kind of figuring out what angles to come from. But until then, peace be on everybody, and Christ for life.